Friday evening in our kitchen. Linda was still a bit puzzled as we entered through the door separating our garage from the kitchen. I tossed 4 bags, each bearing the logo of an upscale shopping center, onto the kitchen table. "What's going on, Chris?" Linda asked for the 50th time. "Is this an anniversary gift?" I smiled and walked over to the kitchen counter. I retrieved a bottle of Linda's favorite Merlot, popped the cork protruding from the bottle, and poured each of us a glass. We silently clinked our glasses and I stepped towards the kitchen table. I dug into the Victoria's Secret bag, pulled out a set of turquoise lingerie, and said, "Tomorrow morning, I want you to pull out 5 other sexy sets from the drawer and pack them in a suitcase." As Linda furrowed her brows in confusion, I showed her the sexy blue bikini we had just bought. "I brought down your summer clothes from the attic. Please, go through the drawers and find 5 more sexy bikinis. You'll need 5 outfits similar to this one," I said, holding shorts and a summer blouse with a deep neckline that we bought. "And 5 dresses like these." I rummaged through the last bag and pulled out a stunning short dark blue dress, designed to accentuate my wife's amazing bust and her killer long athletic legs. "Chris, please, what's going on?" We're leaving very early on Sunday morning, flying to Miami and heading straight to our cruise liner for a 6-day cruise in honor of our anniversary. "Happy first anniversary, darling." But, what about work?" "I arranged it through Mary a month ago. You're on vacation, my love." Linda squealed and threw herself into my arms. Her hands wrapped around my neck and her legs tightly hugged my waist. As my hands clasped the 2 most perfect cheeks ever created by God, Linda pressed her lips to mine and plunged her tongue into my mouth. Linda was beside herself with the surge of sexual energy. She thanked me by completely emptying me. Sunday morning at Bradley Airport, we settled into rather spacious business class seats and prepared for the first leg of our vacation. Linda turned to me and said, "I can't believe I let you convince me to leave the phone at home. We're on vacation, babe. Let's forget about Connecticut and just enjoy each other for a few days. People don't need to see photos of us drinking tequila in San Juan." "I know, and I'm not complaining. Just promise to check your phone for any emergency messages every morning." I replied, "I said I would, but my phone will remain off until the end of each day." Linda reached for my head and gently pulled me towards her. She kissed me passionately, and our tongues danced together as our plane began to taxi for takeoff. Sunday aboard the Caribbean Star. All day we made love, long and passionately. Monday afternoon at San Juan Beach, we strolled slowly along the water's edge for over a kilometer. We weren't in a hurry, leisurely walking hand in hand. Linda was dressed in a green bikini, accentuating her chest. Most of the bottom half of her swimsuit was tucked between the enticing cheeks of her firm buttocks. Linda glanced around. We were on a section of the beach that wasn't crowded. She lifted the beach towel off my shoulder and tossed it onto the sand along with a water bottle. Then she took my hand and led me into the ocean. As we entered the water, we reached a point where the water lapped at Linda's shoulders, and she reached down and pulled my swim trunks down to my hips. Then she threw herself into my arms and pleaded, "Please, make love to me." I placed Linda's hands on my shoulders and wrapped my arms around her buttocks, lifting my wife onto my waist. We spent almost an hour making love in the salty water. Neither of us had an orgasm, but it didn't matter. It was incredibly romantic. Tuesday evening aboard the ship, the dance floor was filled with 20 or 30 couples. We held each other tightly in a slow dance as the pianist sang one of our favorite Frank Sinatra songs. I'll have to hit the gym twice a day to work off all this amazing food and everything we've been drinking. I gave Linda a playful smack on her firm rear, grinned, and said, "You could gain another 25 kilos and still be stunning. Don't worry and enjoy the remaining few days." Wednesday morning at dawn, I smiled to myself, looking at my sleeping wife lying naked next to me. We shouldn't have bothered packing her sexy lingerie, I thought, as we slept completely nude every night. Linda's body is beautiful. Over the past 3 days, she had acquired tan lines, and they looked damn sexy. The top of each breast was beginning to bronze, while the underside remained white, except for a hickey I left beneath her right nipple. Her stomach was flat and toned from hours at the gym. I got out of bed without disturbing Linda and headed to the bathroom. After finishing my morning routine, I sighed and turned on my mobile phone, which was in silent mode, so any notifications, beeps, or calls wouldn't disturb my sleeping beauty. Like the previous 3 mornings, the phone was buzzing with messages. I quickly skimmed through 38 text messages and deleted each one. Aside from the number of emails, I checked a few related to work and one from my lawyer. The rest I left untouched. My voicemail was completely full. I went through each message, deleting all with the same urgent demand for Linda to call home immediately. Thursday afternoon in Nassau. Over the past few days, we had met with Jerry and Ellie, as well as Roger and Sue, a couple of times. Each couple was several years older than us. We bumped into them while looking for food in Nassau. Together, we found a nice beachside burger restaurant. The chairs surrounding our table were swings hanging from the ceiling by ropes. I sat in the middle on one side, next to Ellie and Sue. Linda sat across from me, surrounded by Jerry and Roger. We spent a very pleasant 2 hours, eating, drinking, and talking about our lives. When it came time to settle the bill, Ellie asked us, "What are you guys doing tonight?" "We have dinner booked at a nice steak restaurant on the ship," Linda replied. "We haven't decided what we'll do afterward, but we were thinking of going to a comedy show. We heard it's a really good one. We won't be offended if you decline, but would you like to have some fun with us tonight?" Roger interjected, "We're swingers and would be happy to share our spouses with you." Both couples watched us expectantly. I must admit, I was a bit shocked and tried to formulate a polite response when Linda spoke up. "Thank you for the offer, but it's not for us." She reached across the table, took my hands in hers, and continued, "I can't share my man." Both couples understood this gracefully, and we spent another hour with them, shopping in the tourist area and finally returning to the ship together. Friday afternoon aboard the ship, when the poolside bartender brought drinks to Linda and me, Linda asked, "You seem a bit off. Are you sad that the vacation is coming to an end?" I took a big sip of my fruity rum drink and nodded. "Tomorrow we'll return to reality and all the crap that comes with it." Linda stood up from her chair and playfully punched my shoulder. "Hey, knock it off. Our life isn't crap. Everything's fine, babe." After a few seconds of silence, Linda spoke up, "I've been thinking about something." She glanced at me to ensure she had my attention before continuing. "I know we initially decided to wait a few more years before having a child. Do you think it's possible to discuss changing the timeline?" I smiled at my wife and asked, "What's the reason?" "I've been thinking about having a child for a while now. The idea of having a child with you and expanding our family makes me happy." "How long have you been thinking about this?" I asked. Linda shrugged and confessed, "On and off for several months." "Can I ask why you chose to bring this up now?" She remained silent for a moment, then said, "In recent months, there has been some tension between us. I'm not sure what the problem is, but I thought now would be a good time to talk about having a child." I felt Linda looking at me, but waited a moment before continuing the conversation. "For me, it was more than just tension. It felt like you were pulling away from me, and I don't know if it's the right word, but it felt like you were deceiving me." "Oh, Chris." Linda jumped up from her chair and sat on its edge. She took my hands in hers and asked, "If you felt that way, why didn't you say anything to me?" I did. 4 or 5 times I asked you if something was wrong. You brushed off my concerns, saying you were worried about your job. The last 2 times, you snapped at me angrily. Linda let out a deep sigh.
"I'm sorry."
For the next few minutes, we sat silently side by side, sipping our drinks. "I know the cruise is an anniversary gift, or is it something more?" "Yeah, it's something more. Actually, it's much more. I was afraid of losing you. I felt insecure. I thought if we could distract ourselves and spend time alone together, everything might improve." When we looked at each other, I saw tears in Linda's eyes, and I suspect she saw anger and disappointment in mine. I sighed and continued, "This week has been perfect, including this difficult conversation. There's no reason why our life at home can't be just almost the same. I know we don't have the beautiful blue ocean and dancing every evening, but we have each other. We were halfway through another round of drinks before Linda said, "You never answered my first question." I had to think for a moment before I could smile at Linda and say, "Yes. When we get back home, we can talk about having a baby. But for now, let's talk about other things." We never made it to dinner on the last night of our cruise. We spent the whole night naked, sweaty, and covered in our juices. Saturday evening in Connecticut, as our car veered off I-91 south of Bradley Airport and headed west on I-84 toward West Hartford, Linda asked, "Where are we going?" "I want to end our vacation in style. We're having dinner at a steakhouse." "Oh, Chris, that's so sweet." Linda leaned over and kissed me on the cheek. "But I'm tired. Can't we just go home and order in?" Dinner at Fleming's will be the highlight of our vacation. We both chuckled, recalling the milestones we had set over the past few days. "I have something special for you." Linda looked worn out and, I suspect, irritated, but she didn't complain or object further. I arranged for a separate table at the back of the restaurant. We settled into a booth with a high back in the corner, and decorative foliage was strategically placed to provide us with additional privacy. After our drinks were brought and we raised a toast to each other, I said, "I promised we could talk about children once we got home." Linda's eyes widened, and her smile grew wide. "Really? Do you want to talk about it now? Can you think of a better time?" Linda leaned back in her chair and fought back tears that were about to roll down her cheeks. I took a sip of bourbon and continued, "I never, ever before, hoped you would have kids." While Linda looked at me in complete bewilderment, I nodded to the gentleman who had appeared nearby. He approached and asked, "Are you Linda Harrington?" When she nodded, he continued, "You've been served." The gentleman placed a manila envelope on the table, positioning it in front of Linda, and concluded with a wish, "Enjoy your dinner." Linda visibly trembled, her eyes darting between the envelope and me. "What's going on, Chris? What the hell is going on?" "I filed for divorce, and I hope your 4-month affair with Kyle Jackson is worth it because it ended our marriage." "Oh my God. Oh, Chris. It was a stupid, drunken mistake." "Perhaps the first time was a drunken mistake. During the business trip to Detroit? Right? Maybe we could have gotten through that, but were your weekly fuck parties also a drunken mistake? You said, Chris, that this week was perfect. Our life together can be just as perfect. I know it can. Please forgive me. Please, I beg you." "Linda, you asked me yesterday if our cruise was something more than an anniversary gift. I told you it was much more, and it is. In the past few days, I wanted you to immerse yourself in my love, to forever remember what you had and what you turned away from. I want you to remember the loving person you deceived and flushed down the toilet. Please, Chris, let's go home and talk there." I shook my head and said to the distraught wife, "While we were away, my brothers and their families threw all your things out of our apartment and took them to your parents' house." "Your family? My family? Everyone knows? Why are you doing this to me?" With much more calmness than I thought I could muster, I replied, "You've been fucking that asshole for nearly half of our marriage, and you're asking me why? We can fix this, Chris. I know we can. You can go to your relative's home or find out where your asshole boyfriend lives. His wife kicked him out and filed for divorce." "You told his wife? How could you? They have 3 kids." I laughed at this statement. "It didn't bother you before. Let's wrap this up, Linda. I'm tired and want to go back home to my new bed." When she looked at me questioningly, I explained, "I wasn't sure if you two were fucking in our bed or not. So, I bought a new one just in case you were." "I would never," Linda began indignantly. I think she realized how silly her denial sounded, so she didn't finish her sentence. "All right then, hire a lawyer and review the contract. It stipulates a 50-50th split of all assets, except the apartment. It was mine before we got married. You have 2 weeks to sign the papers. And if I don't? If no? Remember a month ago I asked you for your social media password?" Linda nodded. "When we were leaving for the cruise in the morning, I accessed your account and changed the password. You no longer have access to your account. If we can't reach an agreement, videos and photos of you and your boyfriend having sex will be posted there. Everyone will see how you treated me. Once you sign the papers, I'll return the password." I took another sip of bourbon and finished my drink. It took me a second to chew on the almost melted ice cube, then I continued. "There's a taxi waiting outside to take you to your parents if you want to go there. I'll take my car, which is parked for me in the lot." I stood up and threw a $100 bill on the table. Looking at Linda crying, I said, "I loved you with everything I had. It's a pity it wasn't enough. Please don't call me. Don't email me. I don't want anything from you except to leave me alone." I turned and hurried out of the restaurant before tears could come to my eyes.
Thank you for being with us and listening until the end. If you found it interesting, please subscribe, give us a like, and leave your comments.